Me two letters. This is the second one that he has written me, and I haven't come up with his answer yet. So I'm just trying to find out what I could. Well, I'm going to cut this off now in just a minute, and we'll see if we can find something else to talk about. This boy's been telling me about some people that we both know who used to live in this vicinity, and let's let her tell you about what they did as children.
Well, it was two. Miss Ruby Lee Stanley. She's still an old person. She never did marry. And her brother, he died. But they were on the aisle, and the preacher would tell he told the parents if they come that way, catch them, because they're disturbing him and remembering what he was talking about. And so they never paid attention to the preacher. They let him run. So that's all I know about them. But I know that I went to church when they had a meeting going on there. After I married, I went to the writing school up there at the schoolhouse. But they soon built
Midway.
They soon built another room on it, and I never did go to school there then. And so I soon married, and then they built a new school out across the road on Robert Marshall Place. And that's all.
That's the school I remember seeing, I'm sure, there.
Yeah.
Of course, the well is still there. A well curb's there. I don't know if there's water in it or not. It may be dry.
Probably is.
The curb's still there.
Yeah.
I'm going to put the microphone over now to Syble French. Syble is Mrs. Boyd's daughter, and I think we mentioned her a little bit ago. So, Syble, you tell us about your family.
Well, my daddy's name was John Bascom Boyd. My mother's was Josie Neal Boyd. And I had a brother named J.B. Boyd, Jr. that was older than me, and I had a brother named Warren G. Boyd, younger, and then 20 years younger, I have a sister, Kathy Elaine Boyd. And I married George French, and we have 4 sons. George died in 1981. The oldest boy is George Lynn French, and he works at Swepco. And he's married to Brenda Law, and they have a little boy named Ross. And Johnny French married Judy Marshall, and they have a dairy. And Judy died in 81, and they had 2 children, Kelly and Rex. And Johnny remarried Rhonda French, and she has a daughter named Amber Parker. And then Jerry French married Dina Robinson, and they have 3 sons, Kent and Matthew and Andy. Matthew's named Matthew Boyd French. He's named after me. And then Joy French he married Beverly Goodman, and they have Jennifer and Travis French. And he works at Lone Star Steel. Jerry runs Leonard's Farm Supply, I forgot to, up here at town. And they all live around Pittsburgh. They all graduated from Pittsburgh High School.
Do you think of something that your mother didn't tell that you should tell there?
Well, my daddy's people came from Fort Worth, Texas, and he had 3 brothers already established in business at Pittsburgh when he came here. They were all in the hardware and drugstore and something like that, and he was the only farmer in the crowd, and he bought a farm here and moved here just before my daddy was born. And they had a farm out close to the Midway, Macedonia area. And there was 11 children in that family. And he had a brother named Green, just older than him, that died when he was 15. And that's the reason he named my little brother's name Warren Green after him. But when they come to from Fort Worth, they came by wagon. And Grandma's brother was Williams. And he come and brought his wife and kids, and they got mad and went back to Fort Worth over a sack of candy that wasn't divided properly among the kids, and we never heard from them anymore. Me and my oldest brother attended Midway School and went to Macedonia Baptist Church. And my youngest brother and sister went to Pittsburgh School. We all graduated from Pittsburgh High School. My oldest brother retired off the Cotton Belt Railroad. My youngest brother retired off the Long Star Steel, and he lives in Longview. And my sister is a history professor in Madison University in Harrisburg, Virginia. And I'm just a plain old housewife, or whatever.
She may be just a plain old housewife, but if you read the Pittsburgh Gazette, our local newspaper, you'll find a column in there that she writes every week. And after listening to her and her mother speak here this afternoon, I can see why she has so many comical things to tell about there, because they apparently love life and love to talk about those things. To make this comment, Mrs. Boyd lives out on the Pistol Mill Road, we call it, and she lives across the road from what we used to call the Sanders place. And I have a few recollections about that place and this place too. But when I was a kid, my daddy worked for Mr. Heath, and all of this land in this particular spot here was a peach orchard. And my daddy helped Mr. Heath. He was more or less a supervisor. And my brother and I, who was older than I was, we got the job of carrying water to the folks. And we'd go to Ms. Sanders, and like most youngsters would, we were a little careless with drawing the water out of the well. We'd spill it, it'd run back in the well and muddy the water. And I can remember she came out, and in no uncertain terms, she told us exactly how to and how not to draw the water. Ms. Boyd, you remember this particular part of the land in here, and Peach Orchard, I guess, and you remember, I'm sure, you've lived in several places around here. You want to tell us the places you lived here?
Well, I lived on this place here 40 years, and it's on the Heath Orchard.
Yes.
And we lived on the other side 1 year till we bought this land here and moved here. And I lived in the McCoy house where you used to.
Yeah, I lived in the McCoy house for a while.
We lived there 3 years. And on the King farm, we lived there a long time. And on the Atkinson place, we lived there for 3 or 4 years. And that's all. That's enough.
Well, let me ask you this. Did you ever hear of the fair that they had here?
Yeah.
Did you ever go to the fair?
Yeah.
Do you have any recollections about the fair?
Not too much.
I mean that you could tell.
Well, I might could tell. I just had Buck and Syble in, and they was big old babies like, and we waited when the crowd was all leaving and everybody was closing up his hamburger stand, and all, well, I was waiting on Paul John to come. He was on fire somewhere. I didn't know where, and directly he come, and we went home, but to start with, though, the man told me, he says, you're going to have to move. You can't sit there. I've got patients coming to eat. And I said, when they come, I'll get up. I'll move. And he said, you're going to move now. And I said, well, I wasn't. And I didn't move till I sat there till Paul John come along. And
if he'd have given you a free hamburger, I bet you'd have moved.
No, I didn't. I was just kind of give out. The Buck is on one side, all sleeping, and Syble on the other side, and I was sitting there. And I told him, I said, I can't move, my kid's asleep, you know. And so I wasn't scared of him. He said, I'm going to get the sheriff. And I said, well, go get him, Mr. Carpenter. And I said, you can get him if you want to, or I'm not moving for him. So I sat there till Paul John come along, and we went home. And I said, where was you at? And he said, well, they taken him to town, I think, because he had a little fight with somebody, and he was tickled because, though, he said he knocked a man's front teeth out. And so they carried him, I guess, to the jailhouse. I don't know where they carried him to. But he had a time that night, and we got in their little wagon and come home.
Now, do you recall any of the shows over at the fairground, over at the grandstand? Did you ever go over there?
Oh, yeah, we went all through it that time. Yeah, they had grandstands and everything.
Did you see the airplanes over there?
There were no airplanes then. They tall, I don't guess.
How about races?
They had horse races,
Horse
yeah.
races, okay.
And one of the horses, we set up in the stand, and when the horses come a running, well, one of them run into the wall and stuck a plank in his side, and they had to kill him, you know.
I don't think I was there that time, but I remember telling about it.
Uh-huh. And
But then later on, they had car races there.
yeah.
Little Model Ts, they'd take and strip them down and race there, and the boys liked to run real fast and stop, throw on the brakes, and whirl the car and turn around the opposite direction. You ever see that done?
No, I don't remember that, but it just remember horse depended on see the horse.
Tightrope and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
They'd have pretty girls riding big white horses.
Oh, they had a good fair. It was next to the Dallas Fair. It's good.
Well, I recall, and the thing I remember about it was it went for 2 weeks, that they had a band, always out-of-town band they had there all that time I ever saw. And one time they had the cowboy band out of Abilene College out there. And one time they had a Scotch Highlander band out of Chicago. They stayed down there for 2 weeks. And the Scotch Highlander band, I recall that they had the skirts on, you know, like the Scotch dress. And Ruth Garrison, a young girl here, went out on stage and dressed in Scottish attire, and she danced to some of the numbers out there. I can remember that very well. But I also remember 2 planes there, where the one person switched planes. He was standing on the top wing of one plane, and the other plane came over, and they flew one above the other for a while, and he reached up and caught the axle of the plane above him, and then got up in on the axle for the other plane to land. I don't see how he could protect himself there when they hit the ground, but he did. And one time they had a balloon out there, ascension there. I remember that too.
We went to, they had the race, airplane race thing over here at the landing field where these pines is at.
You remember that?
Uh-huh.
Now, that was Broach Pasture.
Yeah.
Now, I remember going to see those things.
Sybil and Pa John went up there and rode to Mount Pleasant in the planes. And I wanted to go too, but Pa John wouldn't let me because Bunchy was little and he couldn't raise him. And he wouldn't let me go ride the airplane.
You mean Sybil rode a plane?
Yeah.
Well, that's something I've never done.
Well, I must have ride anything.
Kathy goes everywhere in a plane nowadays. She rode a jet one time to
Well, my kids,
Germany.
grandchildren all go, but I just never have ridden one.
Well, that wasn't much of a plane that time we rode Broach's Pasture. Ooh.
Just a
I
common
wouldn't
old
ride that
plane.
again.
And those were open seat, 2-seaters, I
This one was
guess.
closed-in affair that I rode in. It had the little door you got in. It sounded like a potato crate. Wings.
I'll close this out now. To be perfectly honest with you, this is the second run for this. The first run, we ran it, and I went back to listen to it, and somehow or another I had a malfunction in the cable for the microphone, and it didn't record any sound. So we've gone back now and done this again, hoping that we have sound this time. But I know that we have not recorded everything we recorded the first time. So maybe if we have a success this time, we can come back and get something else again if we think about it. Again, thank Mrs. Boyd and Syble French for participating in this, and I hope maybe they have said something that might be of interest to people in years to come who might look at this picture and to hear it. So for now, that's enough for me.
and there'd be some of them ride backwards. And they didn't have no saddles. They just rode on them saddles and leaves all the gates open. And here they went, to hollering. And I lived in a little Indian log cabin. And the cows hollered all night long. I was afraid of them. I said one day, I said, I'm going to keep this window open and see one of them directly, if I can. And, of course, it got darker, and I never did get to see a coyote. But we had to go to the creek. Our river was the Canadian River. And it was sandbarred all the time, and a little stream or two running through it. And you could jump them. And we'd go over there picnicking, 4th of July and all. And we went to 1/4 of July down there and stayed till the tide come in, and they let you know that the rising was coming on the river and to get out of the valley. And so we got out of the valley and got back on land. And that night when we come back home, we heard the next day that there was a wagon load of people had got caught out on the river, and the flood got them. And my school teacher she got drowned in it, and the little boy that was in there, he was 12 or 13-year-old. The flood had carried him to another Gaines Creek, just another creek cut off by him. And they found him, and they got him out, and he was all right, and they doctored him, treated him, got him, and was going to give him a good education and tend to him, and he died. That life was bad on that river.
You were talking about the Canadian River. Now, you must have been up near the panhandle of Texas, across into Oklahoma, because that's where the Canadian River is.
Yeah, it was a wide, sandbarred river, and you'd think there wasn't no water in it. Under it was.
Well, the Red River is that way lots of times, too.
Well, I guess it mixed. But they had somebody to tell them when the flood was coming.
Yeah.
And that's what saved us, and we got out that evening. And we could hear it from our house, roaring nearly, deafening you nearly. And when me and John married, moved out there right closer to it than ever. And I still know how that sounded, But Paul John never did get to see a head rise.
Down now to get in front of the camera. But I want to thank Mrs. Boyd and also Syble. And those of you who know Syble and know how comical she is and how she writes rather comically, I guess that's a word I can use, you can see after listening to Ms. Boyd why she is that way. And again, I'd like to thank both of them for coming before the camera, not being too camera shy, and talking to us today. With that, we'll say goodbye for this time.